Yep.
Vince,
Is it time?
are you ready for rapid fire?
Oh my gosh, I'm so ready.
Let's do
I
it.
am so ready. So ready.
I got a feeling our viewers, listeners are going to like this first question. I'll see where we go. I don't know if how our answers are going to differ. Fill in the blank. Many people want to see Tommy Rees lose his offensive coordinator position right now. And that's blank.
It's unrealistic. I was going to say ridiculous. I was going to say, far-fetched. I was going to say, heat of the moment decision. It's just unrealistic. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to fire him in the middle of the season like this when they, coming off of what happened at Clemson and all. There's too many positives for him from a firing standpoint. You're not going to fire him in the middle of the season. He hasn't done anything illegal. That's the only way you're going to get fired in the middle of the season is if you do something illegal or you're a bad dude, you're abusing players, there's off the field stuff, right? It's a winning program. It's probably going to be a top 15-ish program at the end of tonight. You're not firing your offensive coordinator. That's not happening. Not now. Not now.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense to do it now because all you're going to do is what you're going to push somebody up from within, whether it's, like Parker obviously has offensive coordinator experience or whoever it happens to be. You're not going to gain anything the rest of this season. You're already bowl eligible at this point. You obviously, you want as many wins as possible.
Absolutely.
And all that, but it makes no sense to fire an offensive coordinator mid-season, especially you are talking about an alum of the school.
That is true.
And also an alum of the school who was hired under unique circumstances. So the whole, who's in charge of what and, who makes that call, he was hired before Marcus Freeman was hired.
Technically true.
Don't forget. So, but it's just, it makes no sense to do it now. You finish out the season. At the end of the season,
you evaluate everything.
Whatever, whatever you think needs to be addressed, you address it. And just like I've said before, I don't think it makes sense to fire head coaches mid-season, especially like in September, like when so many of them started getting the axe.
That was ridiculous.
It just makes no sense. But there's no reason to do this now. And again,
what does it gain you? How about that? Let me turn this around. If you fire Tommy Rees right now, what does that gain you the rest of this season? What does that gain you?
Because then you're handing the reins off to someone who has a lesser knowledge of the offense, and maybe that's good. I don't, maybe that would be all it would gain you. But someone who hasn't called plays for this team, hasn't worked with the quarterback because he's also the quarterback's coach, all those different things. And I do still think you have to keep in mind, have there been things that we've seen from this offense and from Tommy Rees that makes us scratch our heads and even bang our heads against the wall? Sometimes, yes. And we've talked about some of them in this show. But at the same time, this is a guy who is working with a backup quarterback. This is at the end of the day, a backup, basically emergency type quarterback, that they've managed to win all but one game with so far. They haven't all looked pretty. But they've won all but one game with this guy. He's 7-1 as a starting quarterback right now.
Yeah, that can't be forgotten. I mean, look, he hasn't looked good at times. He's looked pretty darn good at other times. I mean, he is a very up and down quarterback, and that's why he's the backup. He wasn't consistent enough to win the job, right? It is what it is, man. Again, he is 7-1 as a starting quarterback at Notre Dame, and that means that, in the last 8 games, Tommy Rees is 7-1 as well. And we can nitpick and we can be upset with some of the things that he has done or not done. And we will do that tonight at 8:00. Tune in. But, nothing, firing him right now doesn't do anything to help
Gains
the
you
program.
nothing. Gains you nothing.
Right.
When you've got 2 regular season games and a bowl game to go.
Right.
So Marcus Freeman says that senior day is going to work a little bit differently this year. And I don't know if you saw
hear what this is, by the way.
I don't know if you saw this earlier. So
I saw your question.
Yeah.
but I haven't
So
heard what he said.
that's right. So I didn't know if you heard the press conference or
No.
not. So here's what the Fighting Irish head coach said at his press conference today with the explanation of Senior Day this year.
Being recognized as seniors are the ones that have said this is their last season here at Notre Dame as a senior, right? And so Avery Davis is a senior, and this would be his last season here at Notre Dame. Guys that might consider coming back for a fifth, sixth year, they won't be recognized for senior day. It's the guys that have said they know for certain this is my last season, my last game at Notre Dame Stadium, and I'm a senior, right? And so that's to be clear about that. But yeah, and that's what I want. I want it to be special. I don't know what it's been like in the past, but I know when I was a player and kind of a couple programs I've been a part of, is just that it was special to be a senior. And what does it mean to be a senior? Yeah, you're a senior in terms of eligibility in school, but this is your last season, right? You're not coming back for another year, and so for those guys, we want to make it special.
So what do you think, Vince?
It's about time. I mean, I actually really like that because, look, is it special if you get to go through it 3 times? I mean,
exactly. Because like, how many times have we seen guys, run out there at least 2 years in a row because they decide to come back for their 5th year?
Josh Lugg, if I'm not mistaken, is on his 6th year. Does that mean he's gone through Senior Day 3 times now?
This will be his 3rd, yeah.
That's not special. He's gone through Senior Day almost more times than he's been on the team.
Right.
I mean, yes, I am totally fine with that. And he was very specific because we know that it's going to be Michael Mayer's last year, and he's not a senior, so he will not be participating in Senior Day, which I'm also fine with. That's just an example, obviously, of because he'll be leaving early, and he should. Now he hasn't.
Now, what if he had his degree in hand? Like, what if he was going to finish his degree in December?
He's still
Would
a junior.
That be any different?
No, he's still a junior.
Okay.
I mean, it's called Senior Day for a reason, not Graduates Day. So I would be. I still think if you're here for a 4th year, then that's fine. I like this. I like this a lot. It'll also give us an idea who's possibly coming back. We won't have to worry
exactly
about that for a while.
We get to sit there and we get to go, okay, so he came out. He came out.
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't come out.
And I'm sure, I'm sure there's going to be an exception to the rule at some point. Like
somebody might change his mind.
Some guy's like, I'm out. And then maybe the coaching staff goes to him later and is like, are you sure?
Right.
Like that could happen. Right. But I like the fact that they're not going to have 3 senior days. Okay. It's supposed to be special. You only get one in high school, and it's special. It's really special, So I like it. I like it a lot.
Oh, I like it a lot as well because of what you said. It's like, how many guys have we seen go through, and it's like, well, he still could come back next year, and then he gets another Senior Day the next year. There are going to be 25 guys, he said. 25 guys will be honored for Senior Day. And now we know that some of those guys will be walk-ons. So that's actually a pretty small pool. Like if you think about it, a pretty small potential pool of of guys who are saying I'm absolutely done. Yeah,
the number that they're going to bring in from a recruiting standpoint.
Right.
So there's going to be more attrition than that because there's going to be some transfers. There's going to be this, that, and the other. And there's probably going to be some older guys that decide after Senior Day to leave. So that it's going to work itself out. It always does. But yeah, that's a small number. That's a really small number.
And by the way, the other part of that, I actually asked the question about if they've started having conversations with 5th-year guys and stuff like that. And he turned it into explaining how Senior Day was going to be. But I also asked about Avery Davis and what his future could look like. This was his 6th year, and then obviously the ACL. But you heard Marcus Freeman said Avery Davis is done. This is his last year at Notre Dame. So, I mean,
that's heartbreaking.
It's really unfortunate, for a guy who's put so much into the program and, tore both of his ACLs in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But, and like he was potentially last year, the way he was playing, thinking about the NFL draft and so. And maybe he still goes and rehabs and tries to get strong and works out and tries to catch on as a undrafted free agent someplace next year with the NFL. But it really does suck, but he will not be back for a 7th year, Avery Davis.
It just means that you and I have to get there early and actually have to write down every guy that comes out of that tunnel because, a guy like Bo Bauer, I think he's got he's probably got a COVID year that he can use, like who's coming out of the tunnel? Who's coming out? Who's not?
I think this was Bo's 5th year.
Was it?
I remember right.
There's always the COVID year. So
you only get the COVID year is 5 years though.
Wasn't he injured though at one point?
5 years of playing, I mean. Yeah.
Maybe not. I
would have to double check that.
The COVID year has screwed everything up as far as
I know.
For me.
It's harder to track it exactly.
Where everybody's at. I don't even know anymore. I was gonna look at the roster and see because sometimes they kind of tell you some things, but I highly doubt that it's going to be helpful to me. Let's see here. Football number 52. He is a senior with an asterisk, whatever the heck that means. Of course, they don't tell you what an asterisk means, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, fill in the blank on this next question, Vince. It means blank that Notre Dame is a 20.5-point favorite to beat Boston College this week.
It means that I'm not betting that again. I've learned my lesson, and I'm not taking the 20.5 points. But from a Vegas standpoint and from a talent standpoint, they are absolutely 20.5 points better than Boston College. Boston College pulled the upset against NC State last week. Awesome. Congratulations. They're working with a backup quarterback as well. They've got an offensive line that I'm pretty sure you, me, Brian, Sean, and Ryan could do a decent job if we took their spots. Okay. The offensive line is terrible. Okay. Terrible. If anybody thinks that Isaiah Foskey isn't going to get the sack record and he gets an opportunity to play Boston College is out of their minds. Okay. He's going to get it probably on senior day. So it's absolutely accurate from a Vegas standpoint, but I am not touching it with a 10-foot pole.
I don't know how they keep making Notre Dame a double-digit favorite, though, because what this means, the fact that Notre Dame is favored by almost 3 touchdowns, it means you should run from that line is what it means. And quite frankly, if you're still betting on Notre Dame at this point, you probably need help. And, at least you're in, the early stages, Vince. You're not in denial. You have finally looked in the mirror and realized that maybe the problem is closer than you wanted to realize.
And I added them to that parlay at the last second to boost the odds because I was like, I'm not going to win enough. Stupid.
Here are the facts. Notre Dame's played 10 games this season, right? They have been a double-digit favorite. This is the 6th time they have been a double-digit favorite.
Okay.
0-5. 0-5 as a double-digit favorite. Marshall, 20.5-point favorite. Cal, 13.5-point favorite. Of course, they won that game. But Stanford, 16.5-point favorite. UNLV, 26-point favorite. And then, of course, Navy, 17-point favorite. 0-5 against the spread as a double-digit favorite this season. If, that doesn't tell you, if you really think you have to bet Notre Dame, the game, you need to be betting on Boston College. Is what you know
what's going to happen. All 153 of these people are going to take Boston College plus 20.5, and Notre Dame's going to win by 21. They're going to win by 21. You watch.
Yeah. But, again, it's play up, play down, right? What do all those teams that they're owing, when they were favored so heavily, what do they have in common? Well, one, Notre Dame was a heavy favorite, but Notre Dame did not play well in any of those games, even the wins, for parts of the wins, but they didn't play complete games in any of them. But they're 5-0 on the other side when they're either a single-digit favorite or, in the case of Ohio State, when they were an underdog. They're 5-0 against the spread in those games. So, don't bet this game. Wait for USC.
Wait for
bet
USC
that because they'll be an underdog.
Yes, they will. And I'll take Notre Dame in the points all day on that one.
Yes,
all day.
Yes. Buy or sell. If Notre Dame had ended up losing to Navy after leading by 22 points at halftime, would it have been worse than losing to Stanford or Marshall? This is something that I saw floated around this weekend.
I will buy that. It would be worse for one major reason. It's November, 12th. That's why it would be worse. Because Marshall's at the beginning of the season. Stanford is in October, which is also too late, which is why you can't erase that loss, right? We've had that talk before.
Mm-hmm.
But this would be worse because you had a 22-point lead at halftime and you were absolutely dominating them on offense. Dominating them. 22 points at halftime. It would have been worse on – I mean, you think people are upset right now because they had a bad second half? Can you imagine if they would have actually lost that game, what we would be dealing with right now? Deservedly so? No, it would be worse than losing to both of those other teams.
And it's not just having a 22-point lead at halftime. It's that you had a 22-point lead, and it's not just that it's Navy, but you had a 22-point lead against a triple option team, regardless of what the name is.
Yeah.
The triple option is not built to come back from a 22-point deficit, and they nearly did it. And again, if they don't have to kick that field goal, if they turn it into a touchdown instead at the end of the first half, then they would have come back. And it's like you can't give up a 22-point lead to a triple option offense. You just can't. And it absolutely would have been worse than either one of those games because, one, at least there was some back and forth in those games. And Notre Dame did have leads, but they did end up giving them up. But this one, when you're up by more than 3 touchdowns and what you said, you're this late in the season. Again, you're supposed to be building to something now under this first-year head coach. And to have lost that game, to have completely collapsed and lost that game would have been
the momentum would have been terrible. I mean, it would have been absolutely terrible. There's a lot of things you can explain away, at the end of the season. If you finish out and you win out, right? You beat Boston College at home like you should. You beat USC on the road. Whether they should or not is a completely different conversation. And then you go win a bowl game, wherever that bowl game happens to be. You win out. You go into the offseason with a lot of momentum. If you lose to Navy, that is gone. All of it gone. And guess what? If they lose to Boston College, it's still all gone. All of it. So you can't lose those 2 games. You cannot. You can explain away USC to a degree. I still think they should win that game because I don't think USC is a complete team either. Okay? And I have a lot of faith in Notre Dame's defense. But if you lose to Boston College or you would have lost to Navy, that's inexcusable. All that momentum that you built up is gone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's Drew Pine talking about Braden Lindsey's crazy touchdown catch on Saturday.
That was unbelievable. Braden's a guy that all season, I mean, he's been open a ton of times, he runs as hard as he can. And he's a guy that's in practice. He's always got a smile on his face. And, I felt like, I got to give him a shot. And I scrambled out there. He beat his man by, a couple of yards. And I saw that and I said, I'm going to give him a chance. And I threw it up. And, it was an unbelievable catch. I've never seen anything like it in my whole life. And, I'm so happy for him. And he's going to continue to keep getting better as well. So,
what do you think, Vince?
I think that he should have come to the realization that he should give Lindsey a chance about 8 games ago.
8, that's right. Like where's this been?
Yeah, like I think it was funny that he said he is open all the time. Yeah, he is open all the time, and you don't.
He's open all the time, but I never throw it to him.
And the one time you did throw it, no, that was Buckner. Buckner threw it to him in the Marshall game and overthrew him.
Right,
but. Throw the ball to zero.
Pine overthrew him against Stanford, though, too.
No, that's true.
The one in the end zone.
Good point. So throw the man the ball. He has been open. Look, we talked in the preseason about Braden Lindsey and what he was going to bring to the table this year and how hard he was working and all of that. He's checked all those boxes except getting the ball thrown his direction. He can only do so much. He is getting open. You've got to throw him the ball. Drew, you got to throw him the ball.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fantastic catch for one thing. It was amazing seeing a guy like Braden Lindsey be able to make that catch because it's like something that we haven't seen from him before. To see him make that catch to go up and over, that was basically like a Jaden Thomas, kind of like the catch he had against BYU, but Thomas is bigger, so the degree of difficulty didn't look quite the same. But you're absolutely right. It's like this guy has been open all year, and Drew Pine is supposed to be the guy who's watching film all the time. So you've got to know that he's open all the time. So you need to be looking for the fast guy wearing number 0. He should be more than just a fast blocker out there. Find him more often. Get him the ball.
Yep. Don't know what else to say. Yep.
Michigan State and Gonzaga played basketball in an aircraft carrier on Veterans Day. NFL played in Munich this weekend. Is there a unique location that you'd like to see Notre Dame play a football game?
See, I read this earlier, and they've played in a lot of unique locations, right? They played in Ireland. They've done some pretty cool stuff. And I don't know. Like, I love the basketball on the aircraft carrier thing. Like, I think that is one of the coolest things that they do for college basketball. When I saw that they were doing that again, because they did it a few years ago, maybe it was more than that, but like, I think that is awesome. So I think that there's things that you can do. I wouldn't mind seeing Notre Dame and like Navy or Army or something play in the Middle East or something like that, for the troops. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that kind of a thing. Now, of course, it would have to be safe and, all of those things that you would have to ensure, and so that's probably not a realistic type of situation. But at the same time, Vatican City's too small. I don't think they could host a football game.
I know. They have space. I was thinking like Rome, like
in the Coliseum would be
in
cool,
the Coliseum. Like if the Coliseum could actually seat people, it'd probably crumble if you put people in it. But that's like Rome or something like that. I think would be cool because it's like they're and I think like we had some people say I think after I came up with this, I was like, well, we might have done this not too long ago because I think people were saying like a NASCAR, stadium and stuff like that, which is huge. But that's like. There aren't a whole lot of really unique places you can do football because you basically end up going like to a soccer stadium or something like that, wherever it happens to be. But
yeah. I mean, because once the game is being played, I don't care where it's being played. But like the ambiance of it would be cool. So you're right. Italy would be cool. Mexico City, I think would be cool. Like there's a lot of places that the NFL has played where I think it would be cool if Notre Dame played. A NASCAR stadium doesn't do that's too big. It's too big. That somebody said. I thought I saw a graphic on Facebook that said every Big Ten stadium combined would fit inside of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Like,
really?
It's what they said. I don't know how accurate that is, but like, too big. That's too big. Too much.
That's true. That's true. All right, we just got a super chat in here from Corey. Notre Dame essentially had no third quarter. Navy scored on early fourth quarter turnover. Rest of the game was preserving the win. This is the same as Oklahoma State.
I had a lot of Oklahoma State vibes watching that game, to be honest with you. Absolutely. Very similar. Like
couldn't run the ball.
Just
the same.
Yeah. The emotions were the same. Like I watched the Oklahoma State game. I was there. First half, I was like relaxed, watching the game. I was shooting the bull with a guy sitting next to me. Halftime was great, getting some food, not worried about the outcome in any way. Second half, obviously we know what happened. It was a very similar feeling in this game. It was a very similar feeling in this game. Glad it didn't turn out the same.
Interesting that what Ed is saying here, like change of subject. Well, not a whole change of subject, but a little bit. Ed says, I don't want Tommy to get all the experience at Notre Dame and then somebody else get the benefit of that experience. So it's like,
I get that.
Seller's remorse, I guess.
I don't think he's going to go to another college team, to be honest with you. Is he going to have success at a different place? That's possible, but I don't think it'll be a place that would hurt Notre Dame.
No, I don't either. I think if he moves on, it's going to be professional. I think it's going to be the NFL.
Yeah, I think that's where that's where he's going to end up.
Somebody else brought up though too. Tommy's making a lot of money.
He is,
and the coaches are the ones who are getting paid. I know there's NIL and all that stuff, but coaches are the ones getting paid, and he's got to figure out. Maybe he's coaching Drew Pine up the best he can be coached up. I don't know, but I still do think that there are like simple things like we talked about, simple adjustments that could have given everyone a better shot in that second half. It's one thing to have a couple bad drives, but at some point it's like, okay, they've counterpunched us. What's our counterpunch now? We've got to figure that out. And that's like, you go back to that Oklahoma State game. There was no counterpunch in that game. And there wasn't one in the second half really either. There were some different formations, but nothing really changed. Nothing. So Colts interim head coach Jeff Saturday led Indianapolis to a win over the Raiders in his debut yesterday. Vince, does it mean we owe Jim Irsay an apology?
No. was still a terrible idea. It was a terrible plan. It worked out this week because they were playing a Raiders team that I think has 2 or 3 wins. So, I mean, that was beneficial. And it went right down to the wire. And, you know, they had to make a 4th down stop with under a minute to go to preserve the win. And, you know, all of that. Look, I'm happy for Jeff Saturday. I was a Jeff Saturday fan when he was a player. And to his credit, he made some moves. Like he reinserted Matt Ryan as the starting quarterback. I mean, he did some stuff. He's not just along for the ride. So, I mean, I appreciate that. But no, man, Jim Irsay's an idiot. Like you hired somebody with no coaching ability, a coaching experience, man.
This is one game. And as you said, he did it against a Raiders team that is horrible. And
right.
I've said from the beginning of the season, Josh McDaniels, you know, like there was some irony there as well that, you know, like McDaniels is the one who, you know, took the job in Indianapolis, then decided to stay in New England as offensive coordinator for a few years. That's what got them Frank Reich in Indy. And now here's McDaniels. McDaniels is going to flop like almost, I want to make sure that I emphasize, almost every other former Patriot coach, because Vrabel, you know, is doing pretty well down there in Tennessee still. That's a guy who knows how to coach to what his talent is and to the level of whatever it is he's playing. Let's see what Jeff Saturday is at the end of the season. There are a lot of teams, it's like they fire the coach mid-season, teams will rally around the interim, and they've got 1 win in them. Like even the Panthers did it, you know, when they had an interim coach, and then they got rid of Christian McCaffrey, and they turned around and they beat Tampa Bay. So it's not like other teams have never won with an interim coach. It happens all the time where the interim, you know, sparks something, you know, maybe brings a little pride out of these guys, and they do it for 1 game. Let's see what it looks like at the end of the season.
Well, and Colts fans,
I mean, to Jeff Saturday's credit, he did say, by the way, Sam Ehlinger, no, we're going to go back to Matt Ryan.
Which, by the way, that's the right move.
That's like the best call. Like of all the things, like at least Jeff Saturday realized that. You know, it's like Frank Reich always seemed like a really good guy, but
I like the hire when they hired him. I actually like the hire. I did.
He just at some point showed he probably wasn't cut out for that job, you know.
And I if I'm a Colts fan, it's like be careful what you wish for. Do you want the Colts to go on a run right now and then Irsay just to name Saturday as the official head coach, like moving forward over the next 3 years? Is that what you want? I don't know. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
I don't know. Jeff Saturday, like I said, good guy. I think he was a pretty decent analyst when he was doing that kind of stuff. I don't have enough information to know whether he's a good head coach or not.
Yeah. Interesting from Domer Buzz. He says, Tommy Rees is 28-7 as an offensive coordinator. Who would do better? We quit in the Oklahoma State meaningless game. Let's go home. We can beat them if it can. I don't know. They quit. They just, you know, again, they had no adjustment to the game plan.
You can't say that they quit. The players didn't quit.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't adjust. The coaches didn't coach well, right? And there was a reason that some of them lost their jobs after that game. And it was a poor performance from a coaching standpoint, but the kids didn't quit. I'm sorry.
Right. Salty was asking earlier, I've got my unsalted t-shirt on. Don't think I'm seeing that unsalted sweatshirt, John. Starting something. And I got this when we went on vacation in Michigan. It's like
got the Great Lakes.
The Great Lakes unsalted, but I did wear it for you today. So we have salty and my unsalted here. So
like that.
And one other question, when we were talking about the 50-year stuff earlier, do the coaches have that conversation with players that you don't need to come back? You know, there are different kinds of conversations along those lines. Obviously, some players they want back. And, you know, if they do want them back, they'll present them with the information like this is how it would benefit you to come back. And, you know, it's mutual. And, you know, there are others who, especially when you're in the situation that you're in right now, where maybe you're recruiting well, you know, with some of these younger guys, and you've got younger guys who are starting to come up. It's like, well, maybe it's time for you to move on, you know?
Yeah. And you have to have that, like,
they're honest with them.
When you're the head coach, you get to have those conversations with guys. And sometimes it's letting go of a guy that, you appreciate and that you love and as a human and all of that stuff. But if he's got his degree from Notre Dame and you need to make room for a younger guy, then you make room for another younger guy. I mean, that's just the way it works, man. It's the circle of life when it comes to college football. And you need 85, and you've got to keep the best 85 around.
Right.
And if you're recruiting a guy to come in, you're probably going to keep that guy. And that's just the way it goes.
There's all the conversation going on with recruiting. Did you ever get a response earlier before the show started?
I did. Yes, I did.
Is there anything that we want to say before we wrap this up along those lines?
I can simply say that, for people that did not get the information, of course, Kenny Minchie has decommitted from Pitt, from Pat Narduzzi and Pittsburgh, which I'm sure he's loving every second of for his affinity of Notre Dame.
I want to see Pat Narduzzi have a conniption fit.
Oh, he will.
That's what I want to see.
He will. But he has decommitted from
Pitt.
Pitt.
To watch that, actually.
I know, right? He's decommitted from Pitt. He is visiting Notre Dame this weekend. And this is a quote: "If all goes well, things look very good for Notre Dame for him to be in the 23 class." And I will say that I love this kid's film. So once we kind of crossed the bridge of Dante Moore and the fact that he wasn't going to be coming to Notre Dame and that he was going to go to Oregon and whatever, and we kind of started looking at other quarterbacks and things of that nature, and of all the quarterbacks that I watched that were a possibility, right, that they were going after, this was my favorite guy. I mean, I think the ceiling is the highest for this guy. He's got a strong arm, man. He can just flick it out there and it goes a heck of a distance. I just like that he's a pocket passer. He's not super fast. He runs like a 4.7, but he can get yards when he needs to. He can run the read option and be effective, right? So he's an athlete, but he's a pocket passer. He'll sit back there. He'll read a defense. He anticipates very well, I thought. I think he throws well off platform. This is a good get. I mean, this is a really, really good get for Notre Dame. He's a high 4-star guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
I think he's good.
This is what we've talked about. This is like, if you really, want to judge Tommy Rees, it's like the recruiting aspect of it and what's gone on there for the last few years.
Yeah.
And now if you want the program to elevate, because look at Clemson. Now they've gone out and got 5 stars, but those guys were nowhere near what Trevor Lawrence is. But if you want it to elevate, you got to get deeper talent in that quarterback room is what you got to have. You got to get better competition between better players. And then, like we said, you get as many high 4s and 5s in that room as you can. And then if one of them transfers, you've still got another high 4, 5-star type guy. You don't go down to a 3-star kind of guy.
Yep, absolutely. And he's a 4-star kid and he's got all the tools, man. I mean, yes, he's going to need to be coached. Okay. No kid coming out of high school into college doesn't need to be coached. Okay. So he needs to be coached. He's not a kid that you're going to be putting all your eggs in his basket to be starting as a true freshman. Right. But he's got a lot of tools, man. He's like 6'2". He's got a filled out frame. I think he has the possibility of being very, very good.
All right. I'm going to be on the road tomorrow, heading over to Northwestern. I got a women's basketball game Wednesday night. I'll actually be on the show with Vince Wednesday.
Yeah, baby.
From my hotel room before we go to the basketball game. But is it you and Jesse tomorrow?
It is not. It is Jesse and Brian.
Jesse and Brian.
I'm busy as well. So
okay.
I will be at a girls basketball game. You're women. I have girls. So.
Well, you enjoy that. And that's going to do it for tonight. A lot of good stuff. We vented. We got most of it out. So that's good.
Absolutely. But make sure you tune in 8:00 tonight.
That's right.
So everybody go grab some dinner, relax a little bit. Come on back. 8:00. Brian and I are going to have our Upon Further review. We're going to talk about the Navy game. I hope we talk about the Navy game for a while, but we're going to talk predominantly offense versus the Navy defense, first half versus second half, all that fun stuff. So make sure you tune in.
All right. Thanks as always to everyone. Hit the like button on your way out if you would. Subscribe, rate, review, all that great stuff as well. We will talk to you very soon. Full week of shows. end of the season is almost here, but
Wrapping up, man.
we'll be here even when the season ends. Don't forget that.
Of
So
course.
we will talk to you later, IB Nation Sports Talk.